Okay, welcome back from lunch, everyone. I'm going to share just a little bit of information here with you about how to integrate these teachings into your life, and we'll have an open discussion about that and anything else that you guys would like to talk about here as we're kind of getting towards the end of the course. Of course, we have the tour tomorrow that you guys are all invited to, and even if there's people that aren't here that you run into today or tomorrow morning at breakfast and they would like to come, everybody's more than welcome to come. So I'm going to talk about this in a moment, but I thought what I would do is just talk a little bit about the tour just to help you guys understand what that's all about. Is that tomorrow everyone's invited to go on this tour where I'm going to take students to a forest temple that is about 20 minutes outside the city, which is kind of rare. You don't usually see the forest temples this close to the city. Usually they're kind of an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours away, but this one's quite close. And I'm going to go and tour students around the forest temple, and you'll be able to learn about the teachings of the Buddha through the architecture, the artwork, the symbolism, and all the various things at a forest temple. And then after that, we'll move to a restaurant up on the mountain. There's a hill tribe restaurant that has a big, thick menu of all different types of stuff. They have meat dishes, they have vegan dishes, they have vegetarian stuff, they have smoothies, they have coffee, they have everything you would like. And if there's something that they don't have, they'll typically go get it for you, because I've seen some students, sometimes they'll ask for something, they're like, oh, we don't have that, but we'll go get it. And they'll go get it and then bring it back. So they'll be more than capable of taking care of all of us for food. And then afterwards, we go into the temple on the mountain called Wat Doi Satep. The first temple is called Wat Umong, and then the second one is Wat Doi Satep. And then I tour students around that, which is a different branch of Buddhism. There's two main branches of Buddhism in Thailand, and one branch is kind of known for being closer to the teachings of the Buddha, which is the forest temples. And then the other temples, they're not considered to be as close to the teachings of the Buddha, but it helps you to visit these two temples on the same day, because you can see the differences and the uniquenesses between these two branches of Buddhist teachings. So I'll tour you around and teach you about the teachings of the Buddha, and I'm also going to teach you things that aren't the teachings of the Buddha too, because there's certain things that are going on in temples that actually aren't the teachings of the Buddha, and I'll help you to be able to see where you can independently reflect and see the truth for yourself. So we usually come together here. I start at 9 a.m. I just start with a meditation. You're welcome to show up a little bit early if you like. There'll probably be other people that you haven't met yet, so it'll be a nice time to kind of meet people. People usually start showing up around 8:45 or so, and I'll start meditation at 9 o'clock. And then after we do our meditation, I'll kind of talk a little bit about what the event's about, because there'll be some people that are just here for meditation. Sometimes you guys might have noticed some people just come for meditation and then they leave. So after our meditation, I'll do a little talk about what our day is about, and anybody who's here is invited to come. And then I do a count and see how many people we have. And then I go out on the street and I get those red trucks and ask them if they can take us for the whole day in our little tour. And usually it ends up being between 200 and 300 baht per person for transportation, which is a lot lower than if you would do the 3 legs of going from here to the Wat Umong to Wat Doi Satep, and Wat Doi Satep back here. So it ends up being very reasonable because we're sharing the cost of the transportation. And we leave here around 9:45, 10 o'clock, and we end up getting back around 4:30, 5 o'clock, somewhere around there, depending on traffic. And all you really need is a little bit of money for transportation and food and snacks, and everything's available for you along the way. So you don't have to feel like you have to load down with like a bunch of water or a bunch of supplies, because there's all that stuff is right along the way as we go. I usually just bring just a little bit of money, my sunglasses, and that's about it. So you'll be able to come along and experience learning and growing. It's kind of like a classroom without walls. As we walk around the temple, I'll be teaching you about all the different things that you'll see at the temple. And then this way, it'll actually help you when you go into other temples, that when you understand the symbolism and the artwork and the architecture of a temple, the temple kind of really speaks to you, because the artists and the craftspeople who were creating these temples 500 to 1,000 years ago, they were embedding the teachings of the Buddha into the artwork, the symbolism, and the architecture. And if you understand that, no matter where you are when you visit a temple, whether it's here in Chiang Mai or anywhere else in the world, you'll be able to glean insight from that symbolism, the architecture, and the artwork if you understand it. So that's what the day is usually about and how it kind of proceeds. Do you guys have any questions on any of those things? No? I apologize for all of you guys online. You're more than welcome to come to the tour, but we don't have the technology to beam you over here to Thailand, but you're more than welcome to come if you like. Okay, so what I'll do then is I'll just move into talking to you and helping you to understand what I call integrating the teachings into your life. Because now that you guys have been learning for 3.5 days, almost 4 days now in this course, you might be looking at, well, gosh, you've learned a lot. You've maybe been exposed to a lot of things, but how do you integrate this into your life and really get the most benefit? Because that's how you really get the benefit of the teachings of the Buddha. Going through these courses, doing some meditation, meeting some friends, it's really great. It's a fun time. But if you're not integrating the teachings into your life, you're not going to see the real results and the real benefits. So the real results come from not only learning and reflecting, but practicing the teachings. You need to practice. That's where the real transformation is occurring. Somebody could intellectually understand the teachings, but they're not practicing them, and it's not going to transform the mind. You're not going to see the benefits that we talk about with the peace, the calm, the serenity, the contentedness with joy that is the enlightened mind. So there's plenty of people who might have a certain level of intellectual understanding of the teachings of the Buddha, but if you're not integrating them into your life and actually practicing them on a day-to-day basis, it's not transforming your mind and uprooting those pollutions and helping you get to the more peace and joy that is the enlightened mind. So what I suggest you guys do is look to attend weekly classes that you're either online or you're in person, that you have a place that you can go and kind of drip the teachings into your mind little by little by little. It's kind of like a coffee, right? If you were going to make a really good high quality coffee, you might kind of drip it into the pot little by little by little, right? This is going to make a better quality coffee. It's the same kind of thing, is that you can't just come for a 5-day or 10-day event to learn and kind of go out into the world and do these things that are needed, like meditation and all these other things, in order to instantly transform. So you're going to need kind of like the drip feed the teachings into the mind. So having kind of weekly classes to be able to do that. And of course, you're going to miss a class here or there. That's normal. That's impermanence. But if you have the ability to take a weekly class, this will be really helpful for you. And I make those available for you, as you guys heard earlier before lunch, that this is really accessible to you, whether you're here in Chiang Mai or you're online. You can take regular classes by learning, and where you can't attend live, you have the recordings because you can watch those on the replay, that you can learn in the classes that way. So either in person or online. This first book that I share as the first book of the book series, I encourage students to read only about 10 to 20 minutes per day. Some of these chapters, you can read the entire chapter in that period of time. Some of the chapters are a little bit longer. They take about an hour and 15 minutes to read, but I don't suggest that you read that amount of time, because same thing is, you'd like to kind of drip it into the mind. And it's kind of like eating, right? Like you don't take a real big bite of pizza and then try to chew on that. You take little bites and you kind of chew on it and you digest it, and you take a little bite and you chew on it and you digest it. And it's much easier for you to digest this way. Whereas if you sit down with the idea to read like 1 hour or 2 hours, while, in some cases that might be something you do like with a fiction novel or something like this, because you're trying to glean the story of what's going on in this particular story. But with the teachings of the Buddha, oftentimes they're very impactful and they're very significant, helping you to understand certain things. You need to kind of step back from them, catch your breath, and kind of reflect on what it is that you read. So if you get in the habit of reading 10, 15, 20 minutes a day, maybe before your meditation or after your meditation, or maybe sometime during the middle of the day, this will just kind of trickle the teachings into your mind. And what you'll notice is that you'll have either had some experience, and then 2, 3, 4, 5 days later, you will run across the teaching in your normal reading that is explaining to you what you just experienced, and it'll be giving you the solutions of how to handle that situation better. Or even better yet, you might be reading, and then like 3, 4, 5 days from now, you're going to encounter the situation that you were actually reading about, that the Buddha was giving you guidance on how to handle that situation. And you'll actually have the wisdom that you need in that time, in that moment, because you would have read 3 or 4 or 5 days previously exactly how to handle that type of thing. And then you'll be able to implement that wisdom and save yourself a whole lot of difficulties. So by trickling the teachings in like this, it's only a matter of time before you encounter some situation where what you're actually reading in the last few days, that you either have just encountered that situation or you will encounter that situation, and you have the wisdom on board to really relate to that teaching. And that's how you really bring a teaching into your life. It's wonderful sitting in class and talking about the teachings and talking about being loving and kind and all that stuff, but the rubber meets the road when you go out into the world. When you go out into the world and people are bitter and harsh and hostile to you, can you maintain your right speech or your loving kindness and your compassion. That's where the rubber really meets the road. So if you're regularly reading, you're regularly meditating, you're regularly coming to classes, will really help you to be able to build up your practice slowly but surely. And then, as I just mentioned, regular meditation, you're going to need to build that up slowly but surely to 2 or 3 sessions per day. If you've been meditating here, we've been meditating in the morning and in the afternoon, and this has perhaps helped you to start working on building up a meditation practice. You're going to need to keep that going, keep integrating that into your life. So even though the class is over and the course isn't happening anymore, you can still be meditating in the morning and in the afternoons or the evenings, wherever you decide you would like to bring meditation into your life. Having that consistent, ongoing meditation practice is so important. You're going to miss a meditation here or there. That's normal. Your enlightenment isn't going to be determined on whether you missed meditation today or not, right? It's impossible for you to do 3 meditations every single day for the rest of your life. That would be permanence. It's just not possible. So if you did 2 meditations a day, for example, over a 30-day period, that's about 60 meditations. But let's just say you got 52 or 55 meditations in a month. Hey, you're going to get to enlightenment if you can consistently meditate at that level of frequency. So you're going to miss a meditation here or there. Your enlightenment is not going to be determined on whether you miss meditation today. What's going to determine whether you get to enlightenment or not is over the next 2 years, over the next 5 years, over the next 10 years. Can you consistently meditate on a consistent, ongoing basis? That's what's going to determine whether you get to enlightenment or not. That now that you've missed meditation today, what do you do next? Do you continue to miss meditations and it's been a week or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 that you haven't been meditating? Or do you realize, oh, I missed meditation today. Okay, well, let me get on that. Let me start meditating. And then you can start meditating. So you can gradually build up this practice without putting pressure on yourself, without having an expectation, without comparing what other people do. Sometimes if you get in certain circles, somebody might say, well, how many times do you meditate? And how long do you meditate? Well, I meditate for 2 hours a session, right? This is just the ego. This is just arrogance. You don't need to subscribe to that. You can realize that this is your practice and what that person chooses to do is up to them. And wonderful. If they're meditating that amount of time, okay, up to them. But you only really need to truly meditate about 30 minutes per session. I can count on one hand how many times I meditated more than like an hour at one time. Typically when I'm meditating, it's somewhere between 30 to 45 minutes. Sometimes they're even 20 minutes and they're still beneficial. Even that time where I was meditating for 3 minutes and my son walked into the room and interrupted me to go take him to school, I got benefit out of that 3 minutes. So it's not a comparison. It's not an opportunity for you to decide, who's better or who's worse at meditation, because it's your journey to enlightenment. It's going to take you time to gradually build this up. But if you consistently work at building up your meditation practice, this is going to produce the results for you. And then you would like to develop a regular practice of generosity where you're giving and you're sharing more than is strictly required in any given situation, your time, your effort, your energy, and your resources with lots of different individuals. And of course, you need to take care of your own needs too. So you need to prioritize that. When the Buddha talks about generosity, he gives this long list of individuals that you should practice generosity with, and then he puts himself as last. Right? He has these 4 categories of people that he says that you should share and you should practice generosity with. And yourself and your family members are first, because if you and your family members aren't whole, then how could you ever go out into the world and do wonderful things? And then he talks about like your employees and your extended relatives and things like this. And eventually he gets to him and he says, okay, if you still have ability to share at that point, then you can share with him too. Right? So he puts himself as last, but you're going to need to practice generosity in order to train your mind to let go. And you can find ways to do that, and having a regular practice of that will really help you. And then seeking guidance with the teacher as you need help, because as I've shared, learning in these classes is fine and it's wonderful, but we're teaching to a certain level of detail. We're kind of introducing you to the teachings as a whole and kind of at large. But then when your mom has this situation or your dad has this situation or you're having this struggle at work or that struggle at work, you're going to need to understand, how do I relate this to this specific situation? And that's where you can reach out to get help. Or if you're having challenges with your meditation practice, or you're having challenges independently verifying the cycle of rebirth and how to do that, if that's something you ultimately decide you would like to do. If you're reading these books 10 to 20 minutes a day, you'll eventually work your way through the entire book series over the course of probably about a good 2 years, and you'll gradually work yourself through it, and you'll encounter all the different teachings that I talk about, like how to confirm the cycle of rebirth and all these kinds of things. I've laid out this book series in such a way that it gradually progresses you, with that first book being a foundation and a framework, and the other books filling that in. But there's going to be times as you're gradually learning in these various programs and courses and retreats, or if you're doing this reading on your own time and watching the recordings, that you're going to need to reach out and get help. You're always welcome to reach out and get help from me or anyone else that can help you. But just know that I'm always available and I'm here to help you. All you need to do is decide to reach out. That it's your dedication, your determination, and your diligence that will propel you to enlightenment. Sometimes there's complacency that sets into the mind, and it's like, I don't want to meditate. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. Well, if that happens occasionally, no big deal. But then over time, you would like to start arising this energy and this effort, this determination, this diligence, where you're gradually making your way towards enlightenment. And as you need help, you're going to need to reach out and get help from a teacher, because you're going to need a teacher in order to guide you. Okay, so any questions on any of this stuff? Let's see if we have any questions online. Okay, so we don't have any questions online. So the next thing that I'll share with you is now taking it from what we've learned in the classroom to truly integrating this into your life. There's kind of this bridge, or this kind of like movement from this class to now, after our tour tomorrow, you're going to be out there doing whatever you decide to do. It's your choices, it's your life, it's your decisions, it's your results. So while we normally meditate in the afternoon, and I usually guide you guys in a meditation session, here in the afternoon on Thursday, the fourth day of our course, what I do is I kind of turn it over to you guys, and I give you kind of some ideas of things that you could do. But there's nothing that I'm going to kind of do unless you guys request me to do something. Instead, what I do in the afternoon on Thursdays is it's kind of like your own time, your kind of lab time, so to speak. Like if a teacher was teaching you some kind of science experiment, then at some point during the course, it would be like, all right, now's your lab time. Go do your stuff in the lab. So Thursday afternoon is kind of like lab time, that now you're on your own, right? Like you could decide like, hey, this was a really fun week. I'm a little bit tired. I think I need to go home and get some rest. And that's what you might decide to do. And that's your decision. And that's completely fine. You could totally make that decision. Plenty of people might make that decision, or in the past, some people have made that decision, and that's fine. If you need some rest, then that's what you need in this moment. That's your decision. Some people might decide that they would like to do some breathing mindfulness meditation, either in the seated, lying, standing, or walking position, like you've learned in this class. You might decide that that's something that you would like to do this afternoon. Or you might decide that you have remaining questions about the path to enlightenment. Maybe the Eightfold Path is still unclear to you, certain factors that you'd like to ask me questions. Or maybe you would like to ask questions about enlightenment itself and what that is. Or maybe you weren't even here on Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday, and you're interested in asking questions about some of those topics. So any and all questions that you guys have related to the path to enlightenment, you can ask those questions. Or sometimes people like to practice generosity in order to develop merit. They like to kind of spend some time cleaning up the classroom, because we've been here throughout the week. Sometimes students like to roll up the sleeves, roll up the pants, go in the bathroom and start cleaning up the bathroom, or sweep the temple, because these temples, they don't belong to anybody, but yet they belong to all of us. It's a learning center. It's a cultural center. It's a kind of a national resource that the Thai people have created. It's kind of like a self-funded mental health network where anybody can enter into the temple and get help from somebody that's there. And nobody has any expectations of you. Nobody wants anything from you. But these temples, they provide services to everybody that would choose to enter into them. And it's, while this temple doesn't belong to anybody, yet it belongs to all of us. So sometimes students like to try to take care of the temple here in the classroom or even outside. I've seen students go out and sweep the floor or sweep the parking lot or clean things up. those are options for you as well. Some students like to do all these things, right? I've seen some students do meditation, ask some questions, and even practice some generosity and things like that. So this time is for you. I'm going to be here and kind of hang out and see if there's any help that you guys need. But this is really your time to decide whatever you would like to do with it. Okay? So what I'll do here at the end is I'll just thank you all for joining for the class and for the course. I'm going to stick around for a little bit. I do have something that I'd like to give you guys. As you guys know, I've been practicing generosity throughout the course by sharing these teachings with you. I think it's the very best thing I could ever do is share teachings to help other people understand this enlightened mental state. I do so out of love and kindness. I'd like to see more and more people experience these qualities of mind that the Buddha teaches and that this enlightened mind can experience, that you can experience these qualities that the Buddha taught. So I have some generosity that I would like to practice with you. But I'd like to explain it first, is I have a little gift for you. This little gift, it's a picture of the Buddha. That this picture that I use back there on the back wall and that you see me use on all these slides and all these different things, this is an artwork that was created by an artist here in Thailand. It was commissioned by a temple here in Thailand, that all the statues that you see of the Buddha, they actually don't represent what the Buddha looked like during his life. He didn't have a crown on his head. He didn't have hair the way that they show. His facial features didn't look the way that they look in the statues. Those statues were created about 200 or 300 years after his life, and the people who made them didn't live during his lifetime, and they didn't know what he actually looked like. But there was an artist that was commissioned here in Thailand that they read the original teachings of the Buddha where they described what he looked like, and then they casted this artwork. They created this artwork based on the appearance of the Buddha. And if you look at this artwork, it looks very much like an individual from the region of the world that we know that the Buddha was from, which we would refer to that area as Nepal or Northeast India. A lot of the statues, they will look either Chinese or Japanese or even Thai. Some people think that they look Thai. Depending on which region of the world you're in, they will tend to cast the statues to look like the ethnic group of those people. But this particular artwork was created by a Thai artist, but you can see that he looks very much like someone from Northeast India or Nepal, what we would know somebody to look like from that area. So I know that this picture represents more closely to what the Buddha looked like during his lifetime. And I like to give out his picture during classes like this as a gift for you to practice generosity. But also I do it because it helps, I think, in your mind to humanize a Buddha. Some of these statues, the Buddha almost doesn't look human, but if you can look at this picture and you know of this picture and you can relate that a Buddha is human just like you, it helps you to be able to see that enlightenment is within your touch. It's within your ability to get to. Whereas if we put the Buddha up so high and we think he's so high and he's untouchable, you might think that you can't get to enlightenment. But if you can humanize a Buddha and you can see that he's a human just like you and just like me, and if he can get to enlightenment, you can get to enlightenment too, this can be really beneficial for you. So if you'd like one of these pictures, after we break here in a moment, you can come up and I have some of these pictures for you. They're actually rolled up. My son rolls them up and they just happen to look like a diploma. So if you'd like to think of it that way, you can turn the tassel and you can think of it as a diploma that you're finishing up your class. But at the very least, if you end up getting one of these pictures, maybe if you have it hung up on the wall somewhere and you're on the phone and you're getting ready to get frustrated on your conversation, you can look over and see the picture and you can remember right speech, and maybe you'll speak a little bit kinder, a little bit more gentle. I even have this picture of the Buddha on my phone, right? Because if you're going to pick up the phone and use the phone, you would like to remember to use right speech and all the other teachings of the Buddha. So at the very least, maybe this picture will remind you to do some meditation or maybe speak a little bit kinder, a little bit more gently. If you're traveling and you're not able to travel with this picture, but you would like to accept it, maybe you would give it to the person at your hotel, or maybe there's a certain restaurant you've been eating at and you'd like to give it to a Thai person or even someone else, a foreigner that's around that you would like to give this gift to. So when I give you generosity, when I give you a gift, there's no expectation of anything. If you choose to give it to somebody else, wonderful, that's your choice. But I'm practicing generosity to say thank you for your dedication and your diligence to learn the teachings of the Buddha, and thank you for any generosity that you've practiced with me. So I'd like to share this with you as part of a thank you here at the end of the course. So if you'd like one of those, you can just come up and I'll give you one here when we finish up. So anything that you guys would like to talk about before I kind of close off everything and kind of leave you guys on your own? Any questions? Because all these things, not everybody has to do the same thing. You guys can all decide for yourself what you would like to do. But before I kind of finish things off, are there any questions that you guys would like to ask me? Anything that's not quite clear, or anything you'd like to go deeper into? No? Okay. Let's see if we have anything online. All right. Well, I don't see anything online either. So I'll just officially kind of end. I'll turn off the live stream, turn off the mics, and we can just hang out and spend time together. Or if you guys need to leave, or if you have questions, or if you'd like to meditate, totally up to you. I'll be around if you need anything. But thank you all for everything. Thank you for your interest to learn and practice the teachings of the Buddha. And I'll be here tomorrow in order to take you guys on the tour if you guys would like to go. So thank you so much. Okay. Sawadee kap. Sawadee kap. Thank you again for watching. Enjoy your meditation. Look forward to seeing you online and answering any questions that you might have. Thank you so much.